Greetings, loved ones. Child neglect is a serious problem. Child neglect can harm a child's self-esteem and sense of trust, delay them developmentally, and put them at risk for other forms of abuse. Today we're going to talk about child neglect, so help us get these messages out. Subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button and the notification bell, and please share these messages with others because you could save a life. Let's begin with the definition of child neglect. Child neglect is the failure of a parent, guardian, or other caretaker to sufficiently provide for the care of a child's basic needs. There are different forms of child neglect. Child neglect may be physical, such as not providing food, shelter, or supervision. It may be medical, such as not providing medical or mental health treatment. It may be educational, such as failure to educate the child or attend to special needs. It may be emotional, such as failure to provide psychological care or permitting the child to use alcohol or other drugs. Child neglect is a complex issue as different cultures have different standards by which they view child neglect. For example, a religious belief may prevent a parent from obtaining medical care for their child. Poverty is also a major concern in child neglect, and it may be the case that one of these situations can occur due to poverty rather than child neglect. Child neglect and abuse are often defined together in the law, but essentially, child abuse occurs due to harmful actions, while child neglect occurs due to inactions. Let's talk about some child neglect statistics. Of the approximately 1,500 children that will die each year from child abuse and neglect, 30% of them will die to child neglect alone. Of the children who are abused or neglected, over 78% of them will experience neglect. So let's discuss some child neglect laws. Child neglect laws are defined alongside child abuse laws at the federal and state level. Federally, the child neglect laws are defined by the Federal Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, called CAPTA, as amended by the Keeping Children and Families Safe Act of 2003. At a minimum, child abuse and neglect are defined as any recent act or failure to act on the part of a parent or caretaker which results in death, serious physical or emotional harm, and sexual abuse or exploitation. An act or failure to act which presents an imminent risk of serious harm. These laws refer to parents or caregivers and not to strangers or acquaintances. States build upon this definition and further specify child neglect and abuse laws. In general, child neglect refers to a failure to act, whereas child abuse refers to an inappropriate, abusive action. However, in many cases, neglect is simply considered a type of abuse. Abandonment is also considered a form of child neglect in many states. In general, a child is considered to be abandoned when the parent's identity or whereabouts are unknown. The child has been left alone in circumstances where the child suffers serious harm, or the parent has failed to maintain contact with the child or provide reasonable support for a specified period of time. Child neglect cases frequently center around physical child neglect, as emotional neglect can be hard to prove. According to the CDC, over half of all the children in the world, that's 1 billion children ages 2 to 17, experience violence every single year. And the question is not if you'll encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. You are called. We are all called to be champions of justice. If you're a victim of violence, I want you to listen to me. I want you to know that you are valued, you are loved, you are intelligent, and yes, you are worthy. God doesn't want you to suffer violence. He wants you to live free from violence in peace and tranquility. I want you to know there is a way out. You're not trapped, and it's not your fault. Anyone who commits abuse is not loving you. You're not alone. If you're suffering violence, please reach out to someone today. And if you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 for help. And listen, if you know of a child or other person suffering violence, you need to tell the authorities. In our next episode, we will talk about emotional child abuse. Until then, God bless you.